Do you ever have those days where you just feel so tired, like your face just feels exhausted? I'm literally having one of those. That's why I have some coffee to wake myself up. Who am I kidding? I have coffee all the time. Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. I hope you guys are doing well. I thought I'd do kind of a different video. Today I want to talk to you guys about some things that I wish I knew before I got into fitness. And now this can be really applied to anyone in their fitness journey, no matter where you are on your fitness journey. If you want to start a fitness journey and if you're in the beginning, but also if you are currently in the middle of your fitness journey and you're looking for some just maybe mindset shifts, aha moments, because sometimes I like to watch these videos and it helps just kind of help me kind of give me like a little bit more guidance or clarity on something, like if it comes to food, nutrition, or even exercise or whatever, or how I should approach exercise, things like that. So I figured this might actually kind of help you. So let's talk about it. The first thing I want to talk about is something I literally scream on my Instagram and TikTok all the time. So if you see my short form content, you've probably heard this before, is that performance will always be more beneficial than just focusing on aesthetics. Now, I'm not saying aesthetics are bad. I'm not saying weight loss is bad. A lot of people tend to think when you focus only on performance, weight loss is bad. No, weight loss is good. I want you to be as healthy as possible. So if you need to lose weight, that's okay. It's not a bad thing. But at the end of the day, when focusing on performance, it will always be way more beneficial than just focusing on aesthetics, trying to be skinny, trying to be a certain number on the scale. When it comes to focusing on these things in the gym, focusing on performance always made me show up and be more consistent in the gym than just trying to be skinny. Because at the end of the day, there's more of a clear line in the sand, I guess that's a metaphor we can use, when it comes to performance than just trying to be skinny, just focusing on aesthetics. When it comes to focusing just on aesthetics, like I want to be skinny, I want to be toned, where's that goal? Like when do you like officially reach that goal? Is there really any way to officially reach that goal? It really just depends on how you're feeling, what your mood is, that kind of thing. And you can also think, I want to be a certain number on the scale, but does that number on the scale really represent you being healthy and you feeling skinny or fit or whatever, toned up, whatever word you want to use? Are you able to achieve that? Maybe you can, but are you going to be feeling the way that you thought you would feel? Now let me explain. When it comes to just achieving only a number on the scale, we tend to think our body like, oh, if I'm going to be 120 pounds, I'm going to be skinny. You probably will, but does that mean you're going to be healthy? Does that mean it's going to be sustainable for you? I don't know. Some people, yeah, it is, but some people it's not. Let me share a little story. When I first got into CrossFit, I thought, oh my gosh, all these female athletes, I need to be like them, I need to weigh like them. Like that was my mindset when I first got into CrossFit before I actually started realizing what CrossFit was all about. But when I first got into CrossFit, I was coming from a mindset that I need to just only focus on aesthetics. And when I started looking at CrossFit athletes, I fell in love with their muscular look. I was like, wow, that's so cool. Like I want to look strong. Like that's cool, I guess. Like that's not a bad thing. I'm not saying aesthetics are a bad thing. I'm just saying that there's no clear line when it comes to it. And when I was looking at athletes, I was like, wow, I want to be strong like them. And I was like, man, they must only weigh like 130 pounds and have that muscle. They look good. And then when I started looking into it, a lot of CrossFit athletes actually weighed like 160, 170, 180 pounds. And I was like, what? I thought in my head, if I weighed anything over 150 pounds, I was considered obese and I was unhealthy and I was like a bad person for weighing that much. When in reality, you can be healthy at those weights. It really just depends on your body. You can also be healthy at 120 pounds. It just depends on the way your body is. So sometimes when you're just focusing on the number on the scale, it doesn't necessarily align with how you think your body will look. However, on the other hand, when you're focusing on performance, there's way more of a clear line in the sand. You're able to say, okay, I'm gonna hit a 200-pound deadlift, a 200-pound squat, even a 5K, you want to hit a certain time on a 5K. Those things are way more achievable. And at the same time, since those things are achievable and you're achieving a goal and it's really specific, sometimes the aesthetics come along with it. I definitely learned that when I started focusing on performance. I was so surprised how my body started to change. And I was like, wow, I really like how my body's changing. And it was because I was focusing on performance. I was trying to get strong and I was trying to run as fast as I could. And my body started to change with it. But I was more focusing on how fast can I run? How fast I can lift this weight? How fast I can do this workout? And it was just achieving those goals. It made me change my habits too. I was more disciplined in the gym. I was showing up consistently. My mental strength changed. I was really focused on what I could achieve in the gym. I was proud of myself. I felt empowered, and all those things came from performance rather than just focusing on being as small as possible. I was like, no, I want to take up space. I want to challenge myself. I want to try really, really hard. And I found something that I truly loved and truly made me happy. And just by having that little mindset shift when I came to the gym changed a lot to how I approached the gym, and really developed my fitness journey to be more consistent and show up for myself and my health. Which leads me into my second point, which actually took me a while to realize, but that is longevity and sustainability are super important when it comes to your fitness journey. You want to be able to sustain your eating and a fitness routine that is good for you and your lifestyle, and something that you can do long term. A lot of times when it comes to just aesthetics, like I talked about before, a lot of it is just short-term goals. Lose 10 pounds quick, hit this number on the scale. I need to under fuel, like eat little calories and over exercise to reach that, when that's not always the case. Fueling our body is super important, and we want to make sure that we're doing things that are sustainable for us long term, of course. And if we're doing quick fixes and trying to get things quickly, that's not going to be sustainable for long term. I remember when I was in the beginning of my fitness journey, I was eating barely 1,200 calories. I also had a raging eating disorder, and that wasn't sustainable for me. I wasn't going to be able to last on that for a long time, and I felt like crap. Whereas now on my fitness journey, I'm fueling properly. I feel good when it comes to the gym. I'm fueling myself for my workouts so that I'm feeling energized when it comes to my workouts. And that is sustainable for me long term. I'm able to do this over years and years and years, whereas before I wasn't able to do that. I would not have been able to be. There's someone just like parked outside my house. I don't know. Also, when it comes to longevity, building the foundations now is super important. Even if you're older than me, you can still build those foundations, trying to build that base of just strength and health for the long term. So when you're older, if you fall, you're able to get up, or you are able to sit on the toilet and stand up, those kind of things. Like, we want to be able to build those things so that when we're older, we're strong enough to be able to just accomplish everyday tasks, because sometimes if we don't build those things, it's going to be much harder in the long term. I do apologize if the lighting is a little weird. The sun is finally out. I have missed the sun, and I am so glad that spring is finally around the corner. The snow is melting, and it makes me feel really good because I have been missing the sun, and I am excitedly planning my garden. I'm planning a cut flower garden this year, although, okay, we're not going to talk about that. I'll share that in a vlog. If you want to know more about that, stay tuned for a vlog. My back was honestly starting to hurt standing there a little bit, so I figured I'd come sit down, give it a little break. If you don't know, I hurt my back again. If you've been watching me for a while, you know I hurt my back quite consistently. Back issues all the time. Anyways, let's talk about point number 3. Something I wish I learned a lot sooner. It took me a long time to learn this, and I can be a little hard-headed when it comes to my fitness. I do apologize if the lighting is weird, but I am enjoying the sun on my face, not gonna lie. But this took me like actually a really long time to learn, like almost 2 years to learn since I was postpartum. And that is finding a program that works for you. I think back now and I was like, wow, Nicole, like you were trying so hard to resist a change in your fitness, and you really needed to find a program that worked for you as a new mom. And let me just clarify this a little bit. So I'm not saying that this applies to everyone. We have things that happen in our lives where things change. So for me, for example, a big change was becoming a new mom, and I was trying to work out on a competitive program when I didn't have time to be doing competitive programming. It wasn't working for my life at that moment. And I tried for 2 years to be staying on a competitive program as consistent as possible. And I felt like I was constantly drowning. I was trying to keep my head above the water, and I just couldn't. I didn't have the time for it. I was a stay-at-home mom. And I mean, these are all things that, yes, you can be able to do. I'm not saying that you can't do those things, but as a stay-at-home mom, my partner David also traveled for work, but the timing that I needed to work out for a competitive program and the timing that I had didn't align. And I tried so hard to stay on that competitive programming because that is what I was used to. I was used to that. I was used to that competitive programming, and I was getting injured. I had injuries with my back, oh my gosh, my back I've been just dealing with for so long, and I was trying to deal with those and stay on a competitive program. I didn't have the time for a competitive program, and it just didn't work for my life at that moment. And it took me 2 years to realize that, which is ridiculous. And it sounds dumb, but it was just something that I was so used to. And then I finally took a step back and I was like, I can't do this anymore. I can't keep up with the competitive gymnastics. Those were my biggest weakness. I kept getting hurt. I couldn't keep up with it. And I was like, I just can't do this anymore. And finally I was like, I need to find a program that is just not competitive and takes a step back. And then I found Simply Manders, if you know her on YouTube. I found her program and it was just better for my lifestyle at that moment. So I needed to find a program that worked for me. So find a program that works for you and your goals and the moment in your life. So this leads me into my next point, and that's embracing what season that you're in. And when we go through life, we go through different seasons. We age, we move, we have new employment, we have kids, we don't have kids. Things change, different seasons in our life, things will change. And so it's embracing the season that we're in, which means being able to adjust our health and fitness with the season that we are in. So for me personally, I know this does not apply to everyone, but this was for me and my life. And the season that I was in when I first had my son, I should have been slowing down my programming because I didn't have the time to do competitive programming, but it took me apparently really long to figure that out. However, I wish I looked back going, oh my God, it would have been way more sustainable for me to focus on a program that fit the season that I was in. As my son ages, I am able to do different programming. I was actually, before I got hurt, starting to go a little bit back into that competitive programming because I had more time. My son has grown up, he's in daycare now, and I have more time to be able to train, so I was able to do that. So I was my season was slowly changing before I got injured. However, the season that I was first postpartum was not the season I was in before I had a kid, and my season was slowly starting to change as he aged, and it's going to always change and adjust and that kind of thing. And being able to sit back and embrace it and go, okay, I'm in a season of life where I don't have kids, so I can't start adding more things in if I want to, like actually training for longer periods. Not saying that you have to, of course, but sitting back and embracing the season that you're in, whether that's also just new employment, that might mean longer hours, it might mean focusing more on work, and that's okay. Things are going to change. It won't always be like that. And especially if you're a new mom and you feel like you don't necessarily have as much time as you had before to train, which is okay, where you're seeing people online saying like, I'm a mom of 4 and I train all the time, which is great, but sometimes those kids are much older or they have someone to watch their kids. Whereas like for me personally, my boyfriend David was traveling. I didn't necessarily have so much time to work out. When my son was younger, yeah, I had a little bit more time because he was taking more naps, but as he got older, less naps. There's so many different things, and we're all living such different lives, like, and that we tend to forget that. We tend to compare ourselves online, whereas when we just stop and realize, okay, I'm in this season of life where maybe I can't go to the gym for 2 hours and I can only go and do a workout for 30 minutes. Awesome, embrace it. Know that, you know what, even though you might not be just wanting to do 30 minutes, you wish you could do longer, eventually you might be able to do that, but just embrace that short season. Things change. Seasons change. Just remember that. While I put my shoes on to do a workout, I figured let's talk about the next thing, and that is creatine. I'm not someone who's big on supplements, that's for sure, and I don't think that supplements are 100% necessary. However, it does give you kind of a little bit extra when it comes to your fitness goals. Like, a lot of people when they first hear about creatine, and myself included, thinks that it's like a steroid. It's not a steroid at all. Creatine is actually a pretty highly researched supplement actually, but it does give you a little bit extra. Like when I take creatine consistently, I am stronger in the gym. And one of my most popular videos is me doing creatine for 30 days because there's so many people talking about it and pushing it, and it sounds kind of sketch to be like taking a supplement that's going to give you a little bit extra in the gym. Now, I'm not saying it's giving you a lot, but it will help you. And it isn't just necessarily used for weight training or getting stronger in the gym. This will also be good for you and beneficial for you when it comes to running, cycling, things like that. So a lot of people, when they hear about creatine, get a little freaked out because everyone's like, oh my God, there's this side effect, this, you know, there's a lot of side effects. There really isn't. I've never felt any big side effects from it. Some people have said acne or hair loss. That is from a steroid. Creatine should not be doing that, okay? If you're having that from creatine, I'm concerned. Creatine, it naturally occurs in your body. You're just adding more of it into your body, to put it simply. I have never had negative side effects and I've been taking it for years now. However, I've been on and off. It really just depends my type of training and what I'm going through with my training. So for right now, I'm injured. I actually stepped off the creatine for a little bit. I will be going on it soon to kind of help with a little bit of my recovery, but because I'm not working out as I normally would, I'm not taking it. However, when I am in my stretch of working out and doing all that stuff, I am taking creatine. I do think it's great. You don't need to also load creatine. A lot of people think that you need to like load, there's loading to creatine when you first start taking it. You don't need to do that. A lot of people are also worried about the weight gain when it comes to creatine. I never noticed a weight difference when it came to it. And at the end of the day, you're not gaining weight as in fat. You're just gaining water retention. Your body's retaining more water when you're taking creatine. So that's where people see the weight gain on the scale. You'll see the number go up maybe. I never did, but some people do, and that's only because of that. It's not because you're gaining fat, okay? So we don't need to worry about that. A lot of people get super alarmed when they hear that you're not gonna gain weight from taking creatine. The next thing I wanna talk about is protein intake. This is something that is actually really important as a woman to be consuming. Now, I'm not gonna sit here and say, we need to eat all the protein, we need to eat protein all the time, like protein, 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 like a lot of gym bros tend to say. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying consume copious amounts of protein. I'm saying protein is important, and it is important to obviously build muscle. And as women, we need to have muscle on our body. Regardless, even if you are a man, it is important to have muscle on your body. Muscle has been proven to help when it comes to fighting diseases. Like they showed a lot of research from cancer patients and having muscle mass and how it was able to sustain cancer patients through chemotherapy. Anyways, I'm getting off track. Regardless, protein is important. And there was actually also research shown that women over the age of 30, it was actually more essential for them to start consuming more protein, that it was just more beneficial for our bodies. That being said, protein is important and you can supplement protein, but protein should be coming obviously from whether you eat animals or not, from plant sources or animal sources, whatever. This is important. We need to be consuming protein. Now, like I said, I'm not talking about, bro, keep eating protein, like all the protein. Of course, I'm not saying that. And a lot of people tend to say, okay, well, when it comes to tracking our macros, we tend to do 0.75 or 1 pound per 1 pound is 1 gram of protein, or 0.75 pound is 1 gram of protein. That isn't always necessarily the case for a lot of people, especially if you're overweight. And if you are overweight, if you're doing that rule of thumb, you're gonna be trying to consume too much protein and you won't be able to keep up. What I'm saying is that find an amount of protein that works for you, but make sure protein is your main source when it comes to your meals. That is what's gonna help keep you fuller. That's what's gonna help you with gaining muscle, and having that main macronutrient is just super important. I might not be the best person to be talking about this. I'm not a nutritionist or a dietitian at all, but there has been a lot of research out there how beneficial protein is for women and how protein can really help us with muscle mass, and how muscle mass can help us as women fight so many diseases, especially osteoporosis. That is a huge thing for women. I mean, obviously these things can apply to men, but as a woman, it has really shown in recent years, especially for me as I'm over 30 now, that protein is really essential and will be so beneficial for us. And I want to continue on that note that food is fuel. I said it before and I'll say it again, food is fuel. Under consuming our calories is just not going to be beneficial for us. Fueling our bodies properly will always be more beneficial. It will help sustain us throughout our days, help us with our mental focus, our minds, but also sustain us through our workouts. Like, there's just obviously so many more benefits to fueling our bodies and being able to sustain so many things in our life. So that brings me back to my point before, where having sustainability in our fitness journey is important. So fueling our bodies is obviously important. So that is another kind of thing I want to touch on, is that fueling is so important. I used to not fuel in my body. I used to actually underfuel, and I was miserable. I felt bad. I felt weak. I felt dizzy, all those things, and it was just not a good sustainable way. Whereas fueling your body will always be better. That being said, no matter how you kind of approach your diet, and I know diet can kind of be this whole thing, because what works for one person might not work for the next person. And that is really going to be something that is so trial and error when it comes to your fitness journey, is finding what works for you. And of course, we go through different seasons, like I said, so a way of eating might not be the same way as when you're in a different season in life, and you know, things change. So it's being open to that change in that season in your life, but also making sure that you're fueling your body properly, however works for you. So for me personally, sometimes tracking for a while and then not tracking, and if I need to track again and not track, like, not saying that I go from like being strict to not being strict. I'm just saying I've learned how to track my food so then I can kind of track my food for a little bit, which is healthy for me, and then go into a period where I don't need to track, but I'm able to kind of gauge my measurements from my eyes rather than being super strict, because if I'm super strict all the time, that's not sustainable for me long term. So that being said, I found what kind of works for me, and I'm always still kind of learning, especially as my life changes and as I tend to go through different seasons, that kind of thing. It's always changing for me. But at the end of the day, the main thing that I always focus on is that food is fuel. I want to feel full, I want to feel good, and what feels good to me is having good foods in my diet. And I'm not saying that I have a perfect diet, of course not. I like to enjoy food. I love food. Food is yummy. I love food. So that is why I want to approach this as food is fuel. I want to be able to fuel my body. I don't want to fear food. When I used to fear food, I used to be so scared of what I put in my body, and I used to stress all the time. I don't want to be doing that. That's not sustainable. Food is fuel. Always remember that, and make sure you're fueling your body for what you're doing in your life, in your fitness journey, whatever you're doing. Food is fuel. Workout is done, but let's continue on to the list. So something that I feel like is basic and everyone says is that sleep is essential. Now, I am a mother and I am saying sleep is essential, but I do know that sleep isn't always a thing that we can all achieve, especially if you are a parent or if you have something going on in your life. Yeah, sleep can be hard, but if you can make sleep a priority, of course, when it comes to your health and fitness journey, it's gonna make a difference. It's gonna be really good for you. It obviously helps with recovery. I really realized, especially this time with my back injury, sleep really helped me. Sleep helped with a lot of my recovery, and sleep obviously helps with a lot of recovery when you're working out, but it also helps with mental clarity. I mean, if you're a parent and you know when you have a bad night's sleep and a good night's sleep, there's a huge difference with your mentality. So if you can, make sleep a priority. And also, if you are more of a night person, that is okay. You don't need to be an early bird. I am an early bird. There are people who like the nighttime and thrive in the nighttime, and there are people who thrive in the morning. I am someone who thrives in the morning, so I like to wake up early. So I am in bed early, wake up early. Some people go to bed late, wake up late. Just depends who you are. But the point is that you're getting a good night's sleep. If you can, of course. There's exceptions. We all know that. But if you can prioritize it, sleep is pretty essential. Something that I know I probably already mentioned earlier in this video is that do what works for you. Our lives are all different. We all need to do different things in life. We have different jobs, we have kids, we don't have kids, we have this, we have that, we move this, that. Do what works for you. Because there's no one size fits all when it comes to health and fitness, of course. Sorry. A lot of people on social media like to claim like, oh, you need to do this to be healthy and fit, blah, blah, blah. Like, this is the only way. That's not true. And it's not all gonna work for each and every one of us. We're all different. We all have different things going on. So of course, you need to figure out what works for you. And that's the whole point of a fitness journey, is that it's a journey. You're gonna figure out what works for you. You go through different seasons, you have different things going on. The point is, you want to figure out what works for you and your lifestyle, and that has to be something that obviously is sustainable for you. What works for you? Need I say more? No, just do what works for you.
Summer days burn me out, love just brings me down. Cold inside like winter leaves that slowly leave the ground. Hey, you come back, I wanna give you a chance. Love me like you used to, so we can learn again. The skin is getting brown, baby,